Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journeys, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2024. And in fact, that brings us to a title which already currently exists in the Criterion Collection catalog in a number of forms, and in fact has been part of the catalog since the early days of the Criterion Collection. In fact, it is considered a landmark film, and also in the context of physical media and the Criterion Collection, it's considered a really key film. And we have yet another version of it to welcome us in this year of 2024. But this time employing the 4K UHD and Blu-ray format and what is described as a new 4K digital restoration, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And I'm speaking of a work which is described as being from the year 1963, and the name of the filmmaker is Federico Fellini. And the name of the work is, and please pardon me for my poor pronunciation of the language, I hope you can forgive me. It is Otto e Mezzo, or 8.5. My dear friends, yes, this year, on this occasion of 2024, we have yet another release of a great film from Federico Fellini, which is 8.5 Otto e Mezzo. I love this film. This is one of my favorite films ever. I have my own, say, evolution in terms of, in the context of my subjective viewing of this film. Since I saw it as a teenager, and I didn't like it at all when I saw it as a teenager. I couldn't understand it. And then I gradually, as I got older, began to appreciate it more and more and understand it more, and things that I couldn't grasp before, I was slowly being able to grasp as I was getting older. And now I'm finding myself in I'm in my 40s, and I'm much older than how I was when I was a teenager. And not to say that this film is it can't be understood by the teenage audience, and I don't want to put it in that way, but just for myself, I'm not that bright a person, and during my teenage years, I had very much difficulty with this film, but I've grown to really love and admire this film, and it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite films ever, in fact. And so this is a film that is very important to me. And when I heard that Criterion was going to re-release it this year in 2024, I was very curious as to what that would mean. Because, alongside of my feelings about the film itself, I also know that the Criterion Collection has released this film, 8.5, in a number of formats, a number of times, so many times. And so, and in fact, I've also spoken about this film in the context of this YouTube channel in long-form discussions already. So what I propose to do today with this video is something a little bit different. I'd like to go straight into a discussion about the format and this new release, and it's purported to be based on a new 4K digital restoration, but I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, and just talk about this in the context of how it might compare with other releases, or my views about how it might compare with other Criterion releases, etc. And so if it's okay with you, if you're looking for a more long-form discussion about, say, the plot or story, there are a number of other videos on my YouTube channel, so I can very gently direct you or suggest that you can look for those other videos on the channel. They're still available to watch. And so if that's okay, let us take this opportunity right now to go ahead and talk about the presentation and other contours with respect to this new 2024 release from the Criterion Collection of the work by Federico Fellini, which is 8.5. The Criterion Collection has re-released this film, 8.5, the film from 1963 from Federico Fellini, on this time on the occasion of 2024 with this what's described as a new 4K digital restoration on the back of the box. But this is using the 4K UHD format and Blu-ray format. So we have the 4K UHD disc and then we have the Blu-ray disc, and we'll talk a little bit about those details in comparison with other past releases from Criterion in a bit. But this is also at spy number 140. Very quickly, there are some cosmetic differences already. So if you look at the earlier Blu-ray from circa 2009, you can see the font of 8.5, and also the cover art is slightly different in terms of what we have here in the new release versus the release from over 10 years ago of the Blu-ray. So that's very interesting. I do like this new font of 8.5 Otoimezzo and Federico Fellini, although there's something nice about the earlier use of the font, because as those of you who know the film will recognize that this is the font that's used for the opening titles of 8.5. At least that's my recollection. So although I'm a big fan, I like this look of the 8, for instance, the numeral 8. And that looks very nice. And so what else to say about this presentation? Oh, yes. So if we talk about the presentation, so we have the 4K UHD disc, which has the film and also the optional commentary track, and then the Blu-ray disc, which has the film and then commentary track and supplement. Let me just say it out right here. The 4K disc, my understanding is that it has the 2019-2020 restoration of 8.5. It says on the back of the box, new 4K digital restoration, but when they say new, if they mean new as in 2019-2020, then I can agree with that statement. So this is the 2019-2020 restoration, and I know this because when you put the disc in the machine, it'll have a little opening title card prior to the start of the film, which explains what the master details are, the transfer is. And also I should point out that the fold-out insert, which is a fold-out type, it does say about the master, and I quote in part, 8.5 is presented in the aspect ratio of 1.85 to 1, completed by Cinecittà SPA and Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografia Cinetica Nazionale for the Fellini 100 project. This new 4K restoration, it says new, this new 4K restoration was created from the 35mm original camera negative. And moving on, the original monaural soundtrack was restored and remastered from various 35mm optical positive and negative elements by the Criterion Collection. So that's what it says in terms of the master elements for purposes of this new 2024 4K UHD and Blu-ray release. But I should point out that the 4K disc therefore has this 2019 restoration, and it looks stunning. It looks stunning. That is my go-to default go-to version of the film now, this 2019 restoration. So if you're looking for that, that's where to go. And it's the blacks and the whites. I mean, it's a black and white film, and it looks stunning and sharp and rich in context and texture. Not to say that there was anything wrong with the earlier high definition transfer, which was from this release was from circa 2009. This was really great, but I love this 2019-20 restoration, which is now I understand the basis of this 4K UHD disc. So that's a good news for anyone who's interested. And for those who know the history of 8.5 and Fellini releases in the Criterion Collection and otherwise, you probably know this, or I know you know this better than I do. So please forgive me if you already know this, but there was a release by Criterion some years back, which is called the Essential Fellini box set, Essential Fellini. This was a multi-disc Blu-ray set that had a lot of Fellini-directed films. Not all of them, but most of them, plus some other extras, which is really great. One of the best box sets of recent release history. And included in such multi-disc set was the disc for 8.5, and it was a Blu-ray disc. But when you put the Blu-ray disc in the player from Essential Fellini, you get the same you get the same information about the restoration. So my understanding is that the Blu-ray from the Essential Fellini box set relied upon the 2019 restoration. Such 29 restoration is now the basis of this new 4K UHD disc set. So we have the 4K UHD disc in this new breakout release, and then the Blu-ray disc from the earlier Essential Fellini disc, which my understanding is based upon the same master, which is the 2019-2020 restoration. So if you already have the Essential Fellini Blu-ray disc set, is it worth getting this new 4K UHD plus Blu-ray combo edition, which my understanding is it's relying on the same format, at least for the 4K UHD disc is concerned? And my answer to that question is, it depends. It really depends. For those who are really satisfied with how it looks and sounds on this Essential Fellini Blu-ray, which has the 2019 restoration, my now continuingly, my ears and eyes are getting older by the minute, and so I can't discern the difference. Maybe there is, and it's perceptible, but I just can't catch it. But I really can't discern the difference. And so I enjoy the Blu-ray, which has the 2019 restoration. I enjoy it very much. But that means also I enjoy the 4K disc of this because it's the same restoration, and so it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and it sounds it's gorgeous, really really gorgeous. So, is it worth getting this new release if you already have the set? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, there is the convenience of having it on in an individual set release like this, and there might be other points of difference, which I'll go to momentarily. But if you're satisfied with how this looks on the Essential Fellini box set, then maybe you might not necessarily need the 4K release as of now, because as I say, you already have a really reliable Blu-ray in the form of that Essential Fellini disc for 8.5, which again, it's based upon the same restoration. That's my understanding. Though of course I understand this is also the same 4K restoration, but now housed within the 4K UHD disc technology, so within the sort of native 4K format. That's my understanding of the phraseology. But and for those who are maybe more astute and have better, keener eyes than I, and sharper ears than I, maybe you will notice the difference. And but for me personally, it's hard to tell the difference. But maybe another way to put it is, if you have 8.5, say in the earlier Blu-ray, and this was from 2009. This was based on a high-def transfer before the 2019 restoration. So this is not the 2019 restoration, but the older high-definition release, which was great for what it was. But if you have this, then my strong recommendation is, if you have this and are thinking about getting a new restoration version, this is the way to go. As I say, the 2019 restoration I think is gorgeous. And so in whatever capacity you're able to catch it, either in the Essential Fellini box set or in the individual release with the 4K UHD disc, then that's my strong suggestion, is to go for it in that way. So it depends on where you're situated in terms of your engagement with the film 8.5. And if you don't have the film at all and you're interested in getting, this is a great opportunity to get this. It's a classic film. It's complex, it's rich, it's very mysterious and cryptic, and so. But anyway, that's my maybe. I mean, I apologize. My comments aren't very satisfactory to many, I know, so I apologize for that. But I'm doing my very best here to try to explain how I really feel about this. So that's one thing to keep in mind. That's the 4K disc on this. Then we have the Blu-ray disc for 8.5, the 2024 release. Now, my understanding when I put the Blu-ray disc in the machine of this 2024 release, the Blu-ray disc is the same as the 2009 digital transfer, which we had in the 10 years plus old Blu-ray release from several years back. And so you're getting the 4K disc with the 2019 transfer, and then you're getting the Blu-ray disc with the older high def transfer. So you're getting two different versions, or two different transfers of the same film, but one on the 4K disc and yet another on the Blu-ray disc. And if you put the discs in the machine, you can really tell the difference. I think I can. So and in the opening credits too are slightly different as well. Prior to the actual opening title cards of the film 8.5, and you can really tell the difference, I think. So That's sort of the my very crudely put breakdown in terms of the 4K disc, which has the 2019 restoration, and then the Blu-ray disc, which is essentially the same as the 2009 Criterion release. I should point out too that the 4K disc, I can't put I wish I could put it in the player, but it's one of these moving images things, and I don't want to offend the YouTube copyright gods, so I'll refrain from showing it directly, and I apologize, but I'll describe it. The 4K UHD Blu-ray or 4K UHD disc menu is the same running images or montage that we see in the Blu-ray menu, except the font that's used in the 4K UHD disc Blu-ray menu is this font of 8.5, whereas the Blu-ray uses this font of 8.5. And so therefore, the Blu-ray that's in this new release is the same as this Blu-ray from circa 2009's release. And then the menus are the same except for the difference in font usage. Incidentally, for those who might be curious, the Essential Fellini Blu-ray, which again is based upon the 2019 restoration, has a still image of Marcello Mastroianni, and then also something on the right-hand side, which is kind of like a yellowish orange square that says 8.5 with the font that's the original title card font of 8.5. That's for the Essential Fellini Blu-ray of 8.5. So there are differences in the Blu-ray menu. In case you're interested in those differences, I mean it's a very interesting world, the world of the 4K UHD and the Blu-ray menus that welcome you when you put the discs in the machine. Okay, so that is my just overall 2 cents with regard to how this new release is situated, again, in the context of the Criterion history of 8.5 and its various releases over time. It's a welcome release overall. And again, there's the convenience of the individual release of a disc that would otherwise have been included in the Essential Fellini box set. Very comprehensive, but also very expensive as well, relative to an individual release, especially when you're considering purchasing it, say, during a 50% off Barnes & Noble sale or something. So all things considered, it's definitely something to consider if you don't have it already, or if you have the older Blu-ray. But if you have the Essential Fellini box set, maybe it's not, you're already very satisfied with that, and so maybe you don't have to go to this new 4K release at this time. But in any event, that is my 2 cents when it comes to the new 4K UHD plus Blu-ray release in this year of 2024 from Criterion of 8.5. My dear friends, thank you very much. Let us continue on with a quick discussion of this disc or the supplements. And so I have the Blu-ray behind me in the player, and I'm very sorry again. I just want to block the moving images for the purposes of this YouTube video. And I apologize for the way my video is formatted. I hope you can forgive me. But just very briefly, again, I've spoken about these supplements in other video discussions, so I won't go into too much detail this time, except to say that these supplements are the same that we have seen in previous releases of this film, 8.5 Otto Mezzo. So what those are the commentary track, and I quote, and it says, "This commentary track combines an audio essay read by actress Tanya Zaikon and interviews with Fellini friend and documentarian Gideon Bachman and NYU film professor Antonio Monda. It was recorded in New York and Berlin in 2001." And so this is what we've had in terms of the accompanying commentary track from previous releases since, say, the earlier Blu-ray from over 10 years ago. And it's really great. It's sort of splicing together these three different sources. And it's really wonderful. So different perspectives. The sort of the video essay, the video one audio commentary track focusing in on a sort of scene by scene breakdown, and then we have Gideon Bachman talking about it from sort of the personal aspect, Fellini, knowing Fellini and being on the set particular days, and then Professor Monda speaking about other aspects of scene breakdowns. So very fascinating stuff. But this is something that is being carried over from previous releases, the commentary track, and then also other supplements that have been carried over. We have The Terry Gilliam introduction, which is really great, and he's a great admirer of the Fellini work, 8.5 in particular. And then Fellini, a director's notebook. This is a quote-unquote documentary, a very playful understanding of that phrase. And it says, I quote, Federico Fellini made this hour-long documentary, quote-unquote, for producer Peter Goldfarb at NBC in 1969, a meditation on his films, including those he had abandoned and those he had not yet made. It follows the path laid out by 8.5 and leading to such later self-reflexive films as Federico Fellini's Roma and Orchestra Rehearsal. It has an index, and also there is what is known as the Fellini letter. When you press that, it goes into sort of a slideshow presentation about the letter, and it says, in the summer of 1968, Federico Fellini sent this letter outlining his plans for Fellini, a director's notebook, to producer Peter Goldfarb, who had suggested the project as a way for Fellini to deal with his inability to make the film The Voyage of di Mastorna, which is a very legendary unmade film. As writer Tula Kizic and others have pointed out, 8.5 is strikingly prophetic of this development in Fellini's career. So that is what you can see in terms of the this letter, which is also an option to read when you go to this. But now let's go back. Oops, let's go back to the top menu. I'm back. Sorry about that. So that's the supplements. And then we have the last sequence, which is Federico Fellini originally intended for 8.5 to end with a surreal sequence in a train car. Sets were built and footage was shot, but all that remains are still photographs. From this starting point, Mario Sesti's 52-minute documentary details the story of that original ending and how it came to be replaced. So this is also very fascinating, also carried over from the releases. So that's also included. Next is Nino Rota, Between Cinema and Concert, and I press it and it goes straight into the supplement, which is another delightful one. The partnership between Nino Rota and Fellini is legendary and incredibly important. Then Sandra Milo, who is one of the stars of the film. This is an interview with Sandra Milo. It goes into some really personal details as well. She has a professional and personal relationship with Fellini, so it's wonderful to hear her speak about this. Then Alina Wertmüller is also interviewed as well, and this is also carried over from other releases, another great interview. Sorry about this. And then we have also the interview with Vittorio Storaro as well, talking about the strengths of the camera work of 8.5 and his admiration for this work. From that perspective. And then we have the trailer and then photographs by Gideon Bachman and a stills gallery. And these are all carried over from previous releases of the film 8.5. So again, I've spoken about these supplements before, so if you don't mind, let us maybe just maybe we can note here that these are the same supplements, including the commentary track that we saw in the circa 2009 Blu-ray release. So I don't see anything new in terms of the supplements with respect to this new 2024 release. It would have been nice if we had yet further, say, additional material, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine because what we already had was really packed and stacked and wonderful, and I learn something new every single time I revisit these. So in that sense, that's great. Again, the supplements will be found on the Blu-ray disc. You won't find the supplements. You'll find the commentary track on either the 4K disc or the Blu-ray disc, but the supplements will be found on the Blu-ray disc only. So please keep that in mind. And one, or just some closing comments, if I may, just before we close out this brief video discussion on the 2024 release of Fellini's 8.5, the 4K UHD and Blu-ray release. This has a fold-out insert. Which is a change from earlier releases. You know, the earlier Blu-ray release from 2009 had a staple booklet, and I really enjoyed the staple booklet. So it's a shame that the 2024 release this year doesn't have the staple booklet. And also, the writings from the previous booklet are not carried over into this new 2024 release, interestingly enough. I should also point out, too, that the Essential Fellini set had its own books, 2 books, in fact, which is, I've already pulled them out here. These are included with the Essential Fellini set. And so You had the guide to the films, and then we have a book which is called Essential Fellini Essays. And these essays were in the blue book here were kind of comprehensive, covering sort of periods of films or groupings of films, and a really great booklet. And then this other book had sort of shorter, maybe an introduction essay, and also shorter texts on the each of the films themselves, sort of like breakdowns or synopses. And they're really great. So we had maybe the history of Eight and a Half and various different writings that have been made available depending on the release that you have. Well, um, Criterion seems to be continuing that tradition, in a manner of speaking, because this new release of Eight and a Half in 2024 with this fold out has what I understand to be yet another new writing, or one that hasn't been included in previous releases before. And so this is called the essay for the new 2024 release is called The Beautiful Confusion by Stephanie Zaharek. It's a great essay. It's really wonderful. Stephanie Zaharek, by the way, I think provided one of the comprehensive essays that's included in the Essential Fellini Essays book. And her essay, by the way, in the book is on page 100 thereof, called Women and Men. And it covers a number of topics over the course of a number of films, including Eight and a Half, by the way. But here we have The Beautiful Confusion, which is her new, I think it's her new essay. It's certainly one that I don't think has been included in other booklets elsewhere. So yes, this is, I mean, it's great to have the Stephanie Zaharek essay. It would have been great if we had her essay compared with maybe other previous writings that aren't included, that were included in past Blu-ray releases, or maybe even a chance at some form of further writings, etc., that we had seen elsewhere. But that's an interesting detail about this. I didn't realize when I first heard about the news of the Criterion release. I didn't realize that the writing would be different. I mean, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just if you're interested in the previous essays, then you might be able to find them online. I'm not sure, but if you have the previous release of this, please note that you'll get a certain booklet, which I really liked, by the way. I really liked the essays in the previous release. I do like the Stephanie Zaharek essay, the Beautiful Confusion, which I think is a reference to what the film could have been titled had it not been ultimately titled Eight and a Half. But it's a great essay, really wonderful essay. My strong recommendation is to watch the film first, and then you can read the Stephanie Zaharek essay that's part of this. Again, I wish this were the staple booklet type. I'm not a fan of the fold-out type, but oh well, that's okay, c'est la vie. I should point out that I do like the discs looks though. The white on black and black and white, depending on which disc you're referring to. This one that I have in my hands, this is the 4K UHD disc, and the one in the case is the Blu-ray disc, and it reveals an image on the back here. So, excuse me, let me just remove this, and then you can see here the image that's revealed in the inner sleeve of this. So let me just very carefully return the discs to their compartment like so. There we go. And then I will also return the fold out to the plastic casing like so. Snap it shut. And there you are. Ow. Yes. It's the same, yet it's not. And these I think are maybe minor criticisms at the end of the day. Incidentally, here's the opening of the inside of the 2009 Blu-ray. As you can see, the Blu-ray art itself looks different, and there's no image that welcomes you when you remove the disc. It's a simple black liner for the inside, but it does have the staple booklet, so with different writings, very robust. So interesting. At the end of the day, very, very interesting. There are differences, but not everything is carried over when you talk about the booklets. But that might be a very minor concern for a number of people. And if you feel that way, or either way, in any way, however you feel about that, that's your prerogative, of course. And I totally respect what it is your viewpoint is on this. But please keep that in mind as well when you're considering the new 4K release. And I'm so sorry I haven't prepared enough. I'm not sure. Maybe these older release essays are already available, say online. And if that's the case, then you will have the benefit of being able to read these already online or through other means. And so then just if you get this new 2024 release, you'll then have the added benefit of yet another writing on 8.5 from Stephanie Zaharik, who knows the film and who knows Fellini so very well. What an excellent essay it is, the beautiful confusion. So please check it out if you can, if you're able to. All right, so that's my 2 cents when it comes to this 2024 Criterion re-release. I'm sorry, my thoughts about this are kind of all over the place. At the end of the day, I have the release here. I bought this. I was very happy with it, and I'm still very happy with this. Is it absolutely necessary? Maybe not for those who have the Essential Fellini box set. Maybe yes for those who don't have it at all, or maybe those who are already having the older Blu-ray, but maybe in the mood for maybe looking at it through yet a different restoration perspective, etc. So it really depends, I think, and I want to be as respectful to your choice, whatever it may be, as possible. So, because it is your choice and it is your cinema journey, wherever it takes you. Please note that I respect your choice 100% all the way, my dear friends. But for me, this is my take on this 2024 release of 8.5. But I am still, at the end of the day, so smitten with this work. I love this work so sincerely, so deeply, and watching it again a number of times now on this release, it makes me so excited all over again for what this work means. It's complex, it's rich, it has a comic sensibility. It's dealing with the sensibilities that might lead into the realms of the vulgar, of the profane, of the truly intimate and private, and the deeply philosophical. And dealing with day-to-day things, relationships, fidelity, infidelity, parenthood, religion, creativity, filmmaking, the meta-universe, and everything. And all along the way, you had the great glimpses of Mastroianni and Anuka May and Sandra Milo and others, and whether it be to the beats of Nina Rota or the rumba or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's a true delight for the senses, utterly, thoroughly, and completely. I cherish this film. I love this film so much. It is one of my favorite films, and any chance I get to be able to watch this film again, I will take it. So in that regard, yes, that is my take on the 2024 release of Otto e Mezzo, Fellini's 8.5. All right, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great movies, including 8.5, including other films by Federico Fellini, including other films in the Criterion Collection and beyond. So until we see each other again, my dear friends, stay strong, stay safe, and cheers. Or should I say, asa nisimasa? Or should I say, sugoop? Sugoop.